What's up, guys? Today we're going to use our Genesis shear to cut up this burn up hay baler. I showed you guys when the hay baler came in a couple weeks ago when SLC Farms dropped it off. Like I said then, he has a video of this on his page actually on fire, so if you want to see that, go check it out. When he dropped it off, he requested that we either drop the plate on it or cut it up. The plate needs a little bit of work. It needs the I-beam welded back on top, so we're going to go ahead and cut it up with our shear today. Please keep in mind it is Sunday, so I probably am not going to cut this thing 100% up. I'm just going to get the majority of it cut apart so you guys can see how easily the shear does that. And then secondly, I don't run this machine very often anymore. A long time ago I used to run it pretty frequently, and I'd like to think I was pretty good at it, but today I'll probably look like a rookie, so don't hold that against me. But anyways, let's take a closer look at the baler real quick and the shear, and then we'll get started. So the hay baler is completely toast. There is nothing on it worth saving, and that is why we are processing it for scrap. The reason why we need to cut it up is because we need to get it down to prepared sizes, which is 3 foot or less in length, and that way it can go to the steel mill and be melted down and recycled. Also, we need to get off any non-conforming items such as the rubber tires, hydraulic hoses, any copper wiring that might be left. And to do all of that, we're going to use our Genesis GXP 400R. The R stands for rotating, so the shear head actually rotates, which makes things a lot easier. But this shear should have no problem cutting through pretty much this entire baler. If there's some really thick shafts or something running through the middle of this, it may not be able to cut those, but I think it will be able to cut up about 99% of this machine. Well guys, I think I'm going to call it there for today. Obviously I didn't get it anywhere near completely processed, but I was able to get it cut up into several large chunks. It's so hot out here, the cameras are starting to overheat, so I'm afraid they'll just turn off while I'm cutting it and we won't be able to see it anyways. One thing I noticed about the shear head is that the jaw is opening and closing painfully slow. I think that when I used to run this machine, the cycle time was faster than that, so we may have an issue that we need to address there. And then also I was just making some rookie mistakes, like trying to cut all of these thick tubes together at the same time instead of individually. So it basically just crimped them together, and now they'll be more difficult to cut apart. But you can see I was able to cut them individually, so if I had just taken a little bit more time to cut them individually, I would have had more success getting this thing completely apart. I will say that this baler was probably built more stout than several of the others I have cut up in the past, because normally I felt like I could just sort of cut into them anywhere and it would come apart, but obviously on this one you can see that was not the case. So I thought that I'd be able to just cut straight down this side and through this sheet metal, but whenever I would catch one of these thicker pieces or like that hydraulic cylinder or some of those gears, I wasn't able to cut through it. So it definitely needed a little bit more precision than I put towards it. Also, the axle on the underside of this thing has to be extremely thick. I tried to cut through it twice. You can see where the blade gouged into it pretty bad but it barely even bent the axle. So I think that thing is either extremely thick or solid. And I also tried to cut one of the tires off, but I wasn't successful. Again, that's just because it needed to be more precise, and I'm not that accurate with running this machine at the moment. Here is some burnt copper wiring that will need to be pulled out of there. Obviously, it's worth more, so it makes sense for us, but then also the steel mill does not want copper in their scrap steel, so that needs to come out for multiple reasons. Well guys, it's very hot, so I'm getting out of here. I do think I definitely need to start making videos like this again. It gives me a little bit more run time in the machines, which I actually enjoy because I don't get to run them very often anymore throughout the week. And then also it sort of opens my eyes to some issues or some shortcomings that we might have. Like I said, the shear blade on this one is opening and closing slowly, so we may need to address that. But then also I may need to seriously consider just upgrading to a larger shear. If we had a larger shear, like a 1000 size, this is a 400, we would be able to cut any part of that machine without having to be very precise. So the section where I had crimped the 3 pipes together, we could have just cut right through that, and that would really speed up the process when cutting apart tricky things like this. But then also we would have higher capabilities for processing larger material and thicker material. So it's just something that I need to consider and figure out when would be the right time to upgrade. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.